Hi, and welcome back to episode 4 of Patiently Waiting with Shanna Lee. And I'm just super excited and happy that you have decided to just continue on this journey with me as we go through the journey of waiting. I just want to say thank you for just tuning in and subscribing and liking and sharing and giving me your feedback in the comments. So just thank you very much. And so if you are new and this is your first time tuning in, I want to invite you to subscribe to our page as well as share with a friend, as well as comment, right? And so I'm just super excited about it all. And so here we are on episode 4. So if you have not listened to the previous episodes, I want to encourage you to go and do so, right? Episode 3, we talked about the emotions when it comes to waiting. And so, as you can tell by the name, Patiently Waiting with Shanna Lee, that we are here waiting. And we are on this journey together of waiting. And what does waiting look like? What's the ups, the downs, the sideways of waiting? And so I just want to, and so that's what patiently waiting with Shanley is all about as we journey this season together, right? And you know, I thought about, even as I was getting ready to do this episode, I thought about again that we're always waiting for something. When we are kids, we're waiting to be a teenager. Then when we get a teenager, we can't wait until we are an adult. And then we get to adult and we like, this doesn't look like how adult was when I was a kid, but but here we are in adulthood, right? And then we're waiting on either our career to take off or our business to take off, or we're waiting to get married, or we're waiting to have children, or we're waiting for our breakthrough, or we're waiting on retirement. It's always a season of waiting. And so, what this podcast hopes to do, what I hope to do, is that as we do this journey together, we unpack it, right? And doesn't mean that we will always get it right when it comes to waiting, but it's something that's inevitable that we have to do. We have to do right, and so we just gonna take this journey together, right? And so with that, let's jump into the episode, right? And so, if you don't know, if you are new to this page, I wrote a book, right? Mommy and Waiting. Yes, Mommy and Waiting. And so it talks about my waiting season, of just, waiting to be a mother, right? And and so today episode is actually going to talk about waiting in relationships. And so why I bring up mommy and waiting, because yes, my book is talking about my husband and I journey to be parents. I also feel like it can be for anyone in a waiting season. I've had different people come up to me that's not waiting on a child that just says, the book has helped them, because it's really about just the waiting season. And again, it's just inevitable for us to wait. But why I bring it up, because today we're talking about waiting in the relationships. And in my book, I talk about, I give a perspective because I am a wife. I give the perspective of realizing that your husband is waiting too, right? You're not the only one waiting. If you're married and you're not the only one waiting for a child, your husband is waiting too. If or if you're in a marriage and you're just waiting for your marriage to get better, your husband is waiting for it too. Right. And so today, what we're going to talk about is waiting in relationships. And it's not just about, I'm not just going to talk about marriage. I'm also going to talk about singleness, right? If you're single and you're waiting to be married, right? if you are if you're a parent and you have adult children, and you may, and for whatever reason, you and your adult children are not close like you would like, you're waiting for that child to return, right? um y- we can we're waiting on, or you could be just waiting on some type of transition when it comes to a relationship. And so today, that's what we're waiting on. We're waiting, and we're understanding that this episode is for anyone who feels like God is late when it comes to relationships. Right. I don't know if you ever felt that way. If you are single and you've been single for a while, you're like, Lord, when are you going to bring my spouse? And you think he's you think God is late, right? Like with God, like I had a timeline, right? Or if you're married, right, and you're just waiting for a child, as I stated earlier, or if you are just waiting for your adult children to come home, or to accept Christ, or it doesn't even have to be your children, but you are waiting for that family member to accept Christ, right? And you're waiting, and you're just thinking like, God, where are you? Where are you in this, right? And so this episode is for you. This episode is for you, right? Um, I want to acknowledge that when we are waiting, when it comes to relationships, waiting in general is hard. But when you're waiting for and dealing with relationships aspect, it just seemed like it's the hardest, right? When it comes to relationships. If you're single, it seemed like wait is the hard. Like if I'm looking for a job, maybe you're like, okay, Lord, when you going to send me that job? But if for some reason when we're waiting, when it comes to relationships, it just seems like it could be a little more heavier than we even imagine, especially if you've been waiting for a while, right? And so it's that. Then it's if you're just waiting to reconcile with with one of your children or your child, right? You had like an argument, and sometimes you don't even remember why you even had the argument and or what even caused the rift, but you're just waiting to reconcile, right? And so it just seems like sometimes that waiting season of that is the hardest. And I just want to acknowledge that. I want to acknowledge that if that is you, and if you're in one of those categories, if you're in the category of like, I'm waiting on a relationship in some aspect, I want to acknowledge your feelings. I want to acknowledge that, um, or you're waiting for that marriage to turn around, right? It's hard. And I want to acknowledge that. I want to acknowledge that your feelings, that you're not, it's not that you are thinking of something like you're, it's not that you're, again, you're not alone, right? That is one of the reasons why I have this podcast, Patiently Waiting, because in a lot of times when we are waiting, sometimes we feel like we are alone. Sometimes we feel like nobody understands us, right? And so I want to simply just give you a space, a safe space to really just acknowledge that it's okay to feel like this is the hardest thing ever. It's okay. Because I understand, even if we're not waiting on the same thing, just knowing that it's a wait and it's dealing with a relationship, that is hard. That is hard. And so we're just going to talk through some things, and one of the aspect, and just going to talk through like some Bible stories. We're going to talk through, and I'm just going to, hopefully we're going to just try to again walk through what does this even, how do we even wait when it comes to relationships, or at least, hopefully give you some type of hope that um at the end of this podcast, right? Um, we got to talk about Ruth and Boaz, y'all. Now, currently, um, it is a Ruth and Boaz movie on Netflix. Netflix is not even paying me, so we're not going to talk about this movie, nor are the people who created that movie paying me, right? But you gonna realize I'm very silly. But what about with it's a modernization of the story that's based on the Bible, Ruth and Boaz, and it's found in the story. It's found in the book of Ruth, and I'm going to give you a quick synopsis. But I want to encourage you, if you do not know the story of Ruth, I want to encourage you to go and read the story of Ruth. It's the whole book of Ruth. I actually talk about Ruth. Um, I actually talk about Ruth in my book as well. Um, and and so with Ruth and Boaz, Ruth, we actually get introduced to Ruth through Naomi. Naomi, she actually lived in Bethlehem. It was a famine, so she left, and she had a husband, and she had two sons, and and so while she was in while she was hold on, I'm gonna pull it up, y'all. I'm gonna pull it up. And so while she was in the country Moab, her husband and her two sons passed away, and Ruth was married to one of her sons, right? And her Orpah was married to the other son. And so after her husband, her two sons passed away, Ruth decided, the famine was over in Bethlehem, and so she went was going back to Bethlehem. And I, I was having this conversation with my pastor, and he was making the point of Bethlehem means the house of bread, right? And so for it to have a famine, right? But Naomi was going back to Bethlehem, and and when she was going back, Ruth and Opa was going with her, and so then Naomi is the famous. It's one of the famous lines of Ruth, as well as I know at one point in time, a lot of people, I don't know if they're still doing it at weddings, but a lot of people was putting it in their vows. But um, Naomi said, and I want to read it. She's like, then Naomi said to her two daughters, and this is Ruth 1, verse 8. Then Naomi said to her two daughters in law, "Go back, each of you, to your mother's home. May the Lord show you kindness as you have shown kindness to your dead husbands and to me. May the Lord grant that each of you will find rest in the home of another husband." Then she kissed them goodbye, and they wept aloud and said to her, "We will go back with you to your people." But Naomi said, "Return home, my daughters. Why will you come with me? Am I going to have any more sons who could become your husbands? Return home, my daughters. I am too old to have another husband. Even if I thought there was still hope for me, even if I had a husband tonight and then gave birth to sons, would you wait until they grew up? Would you remain unmarried for them? No, my daughters, it is more bitter for me than for you, because the Lord's hand has turned against me. At this at this they wept aloud again. Then Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth clung to her. "Look," said Naomi, "your sister-in-law is going back to her people and her gods. Go back to her." And this is the part where it's one of the famous lines that people would use in their vows. But Ruth replied, "Don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me. And so Ruth ends up going back with Naomi. So that's one of the famous lines at weddings that people sometimes insert in their vows. And so what Ruth replied to Naomi. And so Ruth ends up going with Naomi to back to Bethlehem, and where she ends up meeting Boaz. And she ends up and I'm speeding through it. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing that but she ends up her and Boaz ends up um getting getting married and having children, and then the rest is history, as well as Ruth and Boaz, like they are in the lineage of Jesus Christ. And so with that, what we see with is patience and faithfulness, right, led to alignment, right? Um, I've read the story of Ruth so many times, right? And this is what I talk about in Mommy and Waiting, that I read the story so many times, not realizing that Ruth was married to Naomi's son for 10 years, and they never had a child. Never had a child. But here it is. She gets remarried to Boaz and they have children, right? And so I say that to say again, when we're waiting, right? What Ruth and Boaz story shows us is when we have patience and God's faithfulness, it will lead to alignment, right? It will lead to what um what God order is, right? And so sometimes when we are seeing, or she was a widow and waiting on a husband, and she went with Naomi. Now Ruth didn't know she was gonna meet Boaz. She didn't know that was gonna be her fate, right? And so if you are in a season where you are single and you're waiting, I want to encourage you that it's tough. It's tough, but you just never know. You never know, right? What order, but just know that God's faithfulness all is in alignment, and his timing is perfect, right? His timing is perfect. And then Sarah and Abraham, we talked about Sarah and Abraham before. And Sarah and Abraham, they waited 25 years to have Isaac. 25 years, right? And they go through, and I promise you, their story is found in Genesis, and I want to encourage you to go and read the story of Sarah and Abraham, right? You can find in the book of Genesis. And with Sarah and Abraham, what they show us is that God's promise is fulfilled despite how long it is, despite the long wait, right? Now, I always think 25 years, like for real, for real. Like Sarah was 90, yo. Like for real, for real. But God's timing is so right, and it's so on time, right? We may feel like, well, God, can we hurry this up? Come on, can we hurry this up? But God's timing is just right, right? Because he has the whole picture. He has the whole picture. And that's the same with Ruth and Boaz. He knows the whole picture. And the whole picture is that even though we're wanting it to happen in some months, and the Lord is like, no, it's not going to happen in some months. Everything had to be in alignment, right? Isaac was born at the right time. Ruth and Boaz got married at the right time. It is all about God's timing, right? And again, we're talking about relationships, and I can't even imagine if you think about Ruth, you're mourning, your husband and everything. And you're like, okay, Lord, what's the plan? And for her to take Naomi's guys, for her to realize like God is the way, right? And go with her, that, in her grief. right, in her grief. But she went with her. Like I often say, like the people in the Bible are real people, and so just imagine our feelings. Just imagine how we are. Like just imagine, right? And then of course you want to put the cultural, piece surrounding it, but come on. But I think about Sarah, right? And we talked about her laugh, right? And I think like I'm sitting here like, yo, I've been waiting for 7. I don't know about no 25. I'm like, Lord, don't do it like that. Don't do it like that. Don't do it like that, Lord. But we're but let me get serious. But just thinking about like no matter how long they waited, and I'm pretty sure along the way we see that Sarah was like, okay, maybe you didn't hear from God, right? You go and have a child with Hagar. Okay, go ahead and have a child. And that's how we got Ishmael, right? Because we get impatient with waiting, right? And if we think about it, sometimes we can get impatient with waiting. So then we start trying to take things into our own hands, right? And that's one thing that Sarah and Abraham kind of shows us, like when you take things in your own hands. Right. So if you're single and you're like, well, Lord, I'm on this journey of being a Christian, I'm going to church and everything, but and none of these Christian men are acting right and everything like that. So then you find yourself out just dating anybody. And it's like, that's not who God has called you to. So then you up here dating anybody and then he brings you headache and you like, and then now you're crying to the Lord, like, Lord, why? Well, I didn't tell you going to date him. I did not tell you that, right? Or date her, right? And so sometimes we try to pick things up, right? Or if you're on the journey, right, of being a parent, I think is different ways that we are parents and everything. But if you're not consulting God, right, the Lord can send you in different avenues to have a child. He can send you. You can have through IVF, through adoption, right? Um, through the um the what we will deem as um the more traditional way, right? um but are you consulting God with whichever avenue he's telling you to go, right? Because sometimes we pick it up ourselves and we try to do it because it's like we just want it so bad. Are you consulting God though? Are you talking with God? Are you having a conversation with him, right? And asking him, what direction should you be going? Right. So we have to remember that. But what Sarah and Abraham shows us is that God, regardless of the wait, his faithfulness is there. He fulfills his promises. Right. Um, the other story I want to talk about is the prodigal son father. And so the prodigal son story can be found in the gospels. And this is a story where it's a story that Jesus told, and it was about a father, and he had 2 sons, and his youngest son actually wanted his birthright. And again, I'm speeding through the parable, but I want to encourage you to go and read it. And and so the youngest son wanted his birthright. He wanted to go and live out these streets. And so he goes and he realizes that these streets ain't for him. And so he comes back to his father, and his father throws like this big party for him. Um and the oldest son, he has some words for his father, like, hold up, I've been here with you, right? And sometimes we can feel that way. We like, we've been here, and it's like, how does this person get this treatment, right? We have that. And but what the father was shown is that no matter how far that my son went, and when it comes back, I'm reconciling with him. I am loving on him. I am waiting for restoration, right? And I oftentimes think about like that father was probably like praying every night, like, Lord, protect my son out there. I don't know where my son is, but protect my son. Lord, watch over him, right? Lord, bring him to his senses, bring him back home, right? And so I just want to kind of just want to stop to for the person that is just waiting for that reconciliation. It doesn't even have to be a son, it can be just a family member, and have a you just have a ache in in your heart because you just want this reconciled. And I just want you to know, just keep praying because the Lord hears your prayers, right? And praying for for that restoration, right? Um, because I've seen it, right? I've seen it in um just uh um a relationship that I know of, and I've seen God bring restoration to that relationship. And so I want to encourage you, if you are just in that space and you're just thinking like this relationship is never going to come back, God is able. You just continue praying and continue asking the Lord to work on the person's heart, to cover them, to watch over them. God's going to do a thing. God's going to do a thing. And so we see through these three different stories, Ruth and Boaz, Sarah and Abraham, and the prodigal son, like they all had to wait. But with their waiting, with different relationships aspects, God's faithfulness has been through it all. It's been through it all. And he's there, and he is fulfilling his promise. In some areas he is restoring relationships. He is showing that when you have patience, what can happen, right? And uh, and with that, um that's what we see. We see in these three stories, and we see that's what God is doing sometimes in those in us waiting with the relationships. It is about God doing something in us as well. It's not just us waiting on, okay, Lord, I'm just waiting to be married. When am I going to get married? And that's what you're praying. Like, no, the Lord is working on some things, because a lot of times we think we're ready for something, and the Lord is like, no, you're not. Right? Or let's say if you're married and you're just waiting for your relationship to get better, right? Um, you know, marriage is one of the hardest things I think you will do, because you literally have to die to yourself. Like every day I feel like we have to die to ourselves to be, Christians. Yeah, in your marriage as well. Like like not to the point that you are not knowing who you are. Like I don't believe in that. But it's a partnership. It's it's a partnership in this whole thing. And so it is about you as one as both spouses being vocal about what their feelings are, and being mature enough to see that you're on the same team, but at the same time is understanding from each other perspective. It's a lot. It's a lot, y'all. Listen. I'm still trying to figure it out, and we babies in this. We just 8 years in. Okay, so you need to go talk to the more season. But but what I do know from just these past 8 years is that it does take like every day waking up and saying, I choose, of course, I'm choosing my spouse. I'm choosing, and when we do have conflict, to come and try to figure it out. And that doesn't mean we get it right all the time and everything, but it's a journey. It's a journey, right? To get on the same page with someone. I remember my mom, and this is a little side note, and then we're gonna get back to while I'm looking for my because I have I gotta bring it um my mom used to always tell me that before I was when I was single, she used to always tell me that with marriage you have to always remember It is two people coming from two different backgrounds. It doesn't matter if you grew up in the same area. It doesn't matter if you went to the same school. My husband and I went to the same elementary school and same middle school. It doesn't matter. Our households were different. And so we had two different experiences growing up, two different everything, right? And she's like, she used to always tell me that because I used to always ask her a lot of questions about marriage and and everything. And so she used to tell me, she's like, marriage is hard because it's two different people. And it's like you're trying to build into one. You're trying to bring it into one, just how I grew up into the one household and my parents having to be on the same page with raising me and my siblings and everything. She's like, you're trying to get to that. And sometimes it's not easy. And what works for your relationship and what works for the both of you. And so I just want to encourage that the married person too. I want to, of course, I'm encouraging all of us, right? Because we're all sitting here waiting, right? If you're waiting to be married, if you're waiting to have a child, if you're waiting for your marriage to get better, if you're waiting for restoration, for reconciliation, it is all it's all tough. And so I just really want to encourage all of it. So, and but with that, Ecclesiastes 3:1, this has become like one of my like favorite verses, right? Like in this season. And it says, there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. And I say that, and I have to say it again, because it is for the appointed time. I know we sometimes want it to be like, well, yeah, I know that, but and it's hard to wrap our minds around it, to be quite honest, if we're really being honest. It's really hard to wrap our minds around it. But yeah, for everything, for everything. Like, I oftentimes, if you know my husband background, you know my background. If my husband and I met, like probably even like a year or two before we met, right? Like before we reconnected, right? Or even like 5 years, let's say 5 years before we reconnected, we would not be married. like everything has its season, has its appointed time, right? And we think we're ready for something, but sometimes, like I said earlier, sometimes we're not. I had to like literally grow up, y'all. And I'm pretty sure the Lord did some stuff for him, right? And so did some things on his part, but I had to grow up. I had to really work on some things, right? And so I say that to say that it is really the appointed time. Think about oftentimes, like when I think about the scripture of first that there's a time for everything and a season for everything. I think about um I quit my job in 2008 and I was working, trying to break into my career, and it didn't happen until 2014. And so, literally from 2009 to 2014. Now, I was going to school. I have my master's and everything, but I graduated in 2012, I believe it was. It's all running together, but I think it was 2012 that I actually finished, right? That I actually graduated. And I would say that when it comes to my career, it is like I had to that had to happen at that time, right? Um, and again, everything happens in its time and in its season, right? And so know that, trust me. And you want it to happen in the right season. You want it to happen in the right timing, right? And so everything happens at the right time, at the right season, right? Because there's certain things that needs to be worked out, and that's And then sometimes it's not even like, I was having a conversation earlier, right? It's not always like a bad thing that needs to work out. And then sometimes it just needs some maturity. I would say like when I was single, when I say like I needed to grow up, I needed some more maturity, right? Because I was a three strikes you're out type of person. Like I didn't have time for it. I'm gonna be honest. Like you do three things that I didn't like, you get cut. I did not have time for it. And the Lord was like, I'm gonna send you a husband. I mean, you just ready to clip him every 3 times. That is not how that is not, and that's not marriage, right? Right. And so I had to realize, and he did take me on a series of learning, like, no, I need you to forgive. I need you to express yourself because that was the other thing. I had difficulties expressing myself because I would just bottle it in, and then when I'm ready to, then it just blows. And when I blow, I blow. Get ready. Get ready, people. Get ready. Right. And so the Lord had to work on me. It was like, no, you cannot harbor. That's why I feel like whenever there's a conflict, I gotta talk about it at this moment. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Because for so many years, I just had that revelation on here with y'all. For so many years, I kept like just stuffing it down, stuffing it down, stuffing it down. And then I just go off. And the Lord's like, no. No, we gonna learn how to communicate. We gonna learn how to let's talk things out. Let's have a conversation and everything. Let's sit in the uncomfortableness, right? And so now, could I can I work on my delivery because I do want to just talk it out, and some people can handle that. And some people can handle that. I don't think I always have to work on my delivery, but in some cases, maybe, right? But because again, I can go, y'all. Y'all pray for me on that. How about that? Y'all pray for me on that. We gonna go to Psalms 27:14, and it says, "Wait for the Lord, be strong and take heart, and wait for the Lord." Y'all, wait for the Lord, be strong and take heart, and wait for the Lord. Again, I know it's sometimes easier said than done, right? But just know that waiting on the Lord is not it's not for the faint of heart, but it makes you stronger in other ways. It makes you stronger with your faith. It makes you stronger when it comes to your worship. It makes you stronger when it comes to your relationship with him. And so just know that in your waiting season, right? When you're waiting on the Lord, that you're going to be made strong and it may look different than what you expect, right? It doesn't mean, and I have to keep saying this, and I think I said it in last session, but I wanted to keep saying it because I want us to know this that yes, you're waiting, right? And you're getting stronger. You're getting stronger in your faith. You're getting stronger in trusting Him. You're getting stronger in just worshiping through your pain, through your, just your anguish, right? You're getting stronger. But then it's one day when you're feeling not the best, right? I want you to know, and I want you to hear me very clearly, that that does not erase all the other times of you being strong. That does not mean that the day that you decide that the day that for whatever reason you get triggered or for whatever reason you just feel as though I can't wait no more and you express your feelings and you cry out to the Lord and you have a moment, that does not erase the fact that you are stronger in your faith, the fact that you are stronger in your trusting Him, that the fact that you are stronger in worshiping Him through your human. What it means is that you're human. What it means is that the Lord, He gave us these emotions, and it's okay to have these emotions, right? I want us to start normalizing being human again, even as Christians. That that's okay. It's okay. It does not negate or forget all the other times. Like if you have a bad day, it is not like, man, like maybe I don't trust him as much. Maybe I don't have faith. No, that means that you're human. That means that you have feelings. That means he can handle it. Because the important part is the part that's really the crux of it. Like when you have your moment and when you call a friend or when you um turn on worship music and the atmospheres just start shifting, that when you come back, like it's like it's you know what you know. And it's like, okay, Lord, I just had a moment. And that's okay. He's like, yeah, you had a moment. But you return to knowing how faithful he is. You return to knowing like he is a good father. You return to knowing that he has not left you. You return to knowing that he would not forsake you. You return to knowing that he loves you. You return to knowing that he is there, like hearing you and comforting you. You know what you know. It does not negate that. It does not negate that. And so I want to just give you permission to be human. Yeah, that's it. But you're getting stronger. You're getting stronger. Okay. And so God timing protects us from premature connections, right? And I don't know, what your experience been, but it's been times that the Lord has like, I remember when I was going on my job hunt, I just wanted this one job so bad, y'all, like so bad. Like went to the parking lot the day before. No, the day before my interview and prayed in the parking lot. Like I was like serious, right? I was like, Lord, this the job. This it. This is it. And I'm gonna get the job. I was so devastated. I was so devastated. And I remember just having a moment, and my moment lasts for 3 days. My moment was like, I don't want to talk to nobody. I just want to be by myself. And I remember a couple months later that same company had layoffs, right? And it was like on the news and everything. They were laying off like a good amount of people. And I was there thanking God. Something that I wanted so bad, but it literally like I would have been so heartbroken if the Lord said yes, gave me the job, and then I lose the job a couple of months later. What you could have just kept me at my other job, you know what I'm saying? And can I get back my other job? You know what I'm saying? And so sometimes his protection in our waiting is protecting us from prematurely connecting because, or just out of that connection. Because anytime too soon, again, it's for the appointed time. And if we go about it too soon and we get it, we may not know how to store it well. We may not know how to um, handle things that may arise during that season, right? We never think about that, right? So if you're single and you so want and desire to get married, right? There are going to be problems in your marriage, period. Like I mean, I don't know no married couple. I don't know no married couple that haven't had some type of problem, right? And so what you thinking because you just, "Oh, I just want that companionship. I just want, I just wanna be with somebody. I don't wanna do this, like, single life by myself anymore." The culture breeds, to get married, right? And you get into the marriage and a problem arise, and you may not know how to deal with it, right? We can think in our head all the day that we can deal with it, but what if it's something that is like, and the Lord's like, no, I need to mature you. I need to prepare you. And so sometimes when we try to rush things prematurely, right, the Lord is like, I'm trying to protect you from that. So it's some things that I'm working on, right? I'm trying to protect you. So just remember that God's timing protects us from premature connections um and things that may arise that we'll know how to prepare ourselves. Um, what I want to give us some practical tools because I really, I know this is we're talking about waiting and we're talking about relationships and it's like okay, I hear you, right? And so I want to give you just some practical like tools to help you, right? Um, I want you to and I'm and with the first one I'm about to say, I'm not simply saying that it is easy because I'm not saying that. Definitely not saying that. But find a contentment in the season of waiting. Whether you are single, whether you are now, if you are married and you're just waiting for your marriage to get better, I want to encourage you to go to marriage counseling, do something to help your marriage to get better, like and and pray. So I've been on this thing. It's like pray and that's been my thing lately when I talk to people. Pray and right. And so with that, right, if you are single, if you are waiting to be a parent, right, or even waiting for restoration, be content, right, and surrender it, right. Um, pray and you can be consumed, right? And so that comes with overtime. I'm not saying that you're gonna wake up tomorrow and be like, okay, okay, Lord, I'm content. And you just keep saying it and you just hoping it's gonna come true that this is how you really feel. No, I'm not definitely not saying that. What I am saying is be content. Is being content, having contentment is really to me, it is something that you work towards. It's not something that you and like I said, like you can arrive there, but then it may be days that you veer off. But even when you veer off, it's okay. Just like when we're taking the journey, we could make the wrong turn. Oh snap! Mm-mm. I ain't content no more. Let me go ahead and make that U turn so I get back on course. Okay. So being content in seasons that it is delayed, right? Um, I would say pray for your future. If you are single, I would say pray for your future husband. I used to pray for my future husband. And I used to also pray if he's in a relationship because if the Lord does have him as my, like, he ain't going to send you somebody else husband. He's not going to send you nobody else man. And so if he is in a relationship and the Lord is like, yeah, it's not like I used to pray, like, Lord, wherever he is, and if he's in a relationship, Lord, just heal him. Heal him that he is healed and healthy when we come together. Because this little side note, there's too many people walking around here that just jumping from one relationship to the next relationship to the next relationship and nobody's healing. Nobody's healing and it's a problem because then you get in your next relationship and it's just a whole cycle. And so I used to pray that the Lord heal him prior to getting to coming to me and everything. And so because I was on my journey of healing myself. And so I didn't want that because I was on my journey of healing that he brings somebody that's not healed and now it's a whole clash situation. So I need us both to be healed, right? And whenever like when Josh and I like, when we just started talking or whatever and I heard like what he was like his prior like the Lord was working on him too. So I used to pray for that, right? So pray for your future spouse. Okay. Um, pray for your future children. I talk about that in Mommy and Waiting as well, about praying for your children, right? I pray for my children. I pray that they will be leaders and not followers. I pray that they will be they will love God as I like they will love God for themselves, not because I told them to, not because their daddy told them to, that they will come to know God for themselves. I pray for that, right? I pray and I pray different things for them, right? I pray that they will steward their gifts well. So I pray for all that, right? Um, I pray, and then if you are praying for reconciliation, I pray for that person's heart. Pray that someone will have an encounter with them that will speak life into them, that will speak into the situation, even not knowing. Like the Lord can use anybody, even a perfect stranger. And then that perfect stranger just start talking to them about, having to reconcile a relationship and they think about you. Right. So I would just be praying for their hearts, praying for where they are and who's surrounding them, who's influencing them, right? And pray for their protection, right? And so that's some of the things that I want. So we're praying, as well as finding the contentment, right? Working towards contentment, working towards it, right? Um, and then understanding that if you are in a waiting season, right, that if there is, if someone knowing that this season that you are waiting on, right, when it comes to relationships, that you're just mindful of what you pour into you, right? Where your focus is, where your mind is, um, at the same time, right? To keep your faith, to know who God is, right? And so that, and then making sure that you don't idolize that thing that you're waiting on. Oftentimes we idolize marriage or we idolize the child or we idolize, even that reconciliation, right? And we don't want to do that. We don't want to idolize it. And so making sure that it is um, a healthy relationship that you're having, right? When it comes to just simply praying for your future husband, children, the reconciliation, it's just in a healthy space. Okay. Um, I want you just to simply reflect that, who or what relationship am I trusting God with right now? Like, are we even trusting God for this relationship, right? That we are praying for, right? Are we trusting God? I know I had conversations with God about, my my future children and just how we will parent together, right? Meaning like my husband and I, of course, and then God, right? And what does that look like? And and just having those conversations with them. Y'all, I be having conversations with the Lord like he right here. Okay. He is right here for me, but you know what I mean. And so, who and what relationship are you trusting God with right now? Right. And so I want you to just know that the waiting for that relationship, that it's okay. Um, to pray to him. It's okay to pray right? Um, and go on a journey of trusting him, faithfulness, and if I was talking to someone earlier. If it's a matter of just putting on worship music just to shift the atmosphere, if it's just a heavy day for you, right? That's okay. That's okay, right? Do that. Put on some worship music. Go to the gym. Go for a walk. Do something that can help just release endorphins to help you um get how you feeling, getting the again the feeling, getting the energy off, right? And just shifting the atmosphere, right? And so I want to encourage you to pray and fill in the blank for you. Okay. All right. Now this was a lot, like this episode was a lot longer, y'all. But I hope it was helpful. I hope this was um this was helpful. And I hope you learned something, or I hope that I even sparked something from you. So if something that I said spark a thought from you, then comment, share it. I would love to read it. And comment back and everything. So I am, and so yeah, so that's this episode. It's episode 4 of Patiently Waiting with Shanna Lee. And yeah, in episode 5, we are gonna talk about patience and purpose. Um, so get ready, y'all. We're gonna talk about that next week. All right. We got to close out every episode with the prayer. So let us pray. Father, thank you. Thank you for being the author of every relationship and the keeper of perfect timing. We bring before you every desire, every longing, and every prayer connected to our relationships, whether it's waiting for a spouse, a child, restoration, or healing. Lord, remind us that your plans are always greater than ours, and that you are waiting, and that you are writing a story worth waiting for. In the moments when loneliness tries to take root, surround us with your presence, Lord. Comfort us, Father. When patience stirs in our hearts, anchor us in your promise. Teach us to trust you even when the timeline doesn't match our expectations. Help us to prepare our hearts now to become the people we are praying to meet, to nurture the relationships we already have, and to love others the way you love us. We release control. Oh, we release control, Lord, and surrender our relationships into your hands. May your will be done, and may every connection in our lives bring glory to you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. Bye, y'all. See y'all next week.